Hello, I'm Frances from Homestead, and I would like to talk to you about Jerusalem artichokes. My brother gave me some Jerusalem artichokes when I first came to the property back in April. I planted them and they grew very well. And even though I had little water, they still seemed to survive. I didn't know when to harvest them. So when I did some research, I found out that they like to have a couple frosts. That helps to sweeten them up, give them some better flavor. So we definitely had some frost. The ground was a bit frozen. I had to wait for it to thaw a bit so that I could dig them out. So I'm digging up Jerusalem artichokes. This one doesn't have a whole lot. The research I did online says that you're supposed to let them have a couple good frosts before you pick them. That makes them sweeter. So hopefully I got some nice sweet ones here because there's snow on the ground. But this is my last one. And it's the biggest. Oh, look at all them. That's a good cluster. That is a good cluster of Jerusalem artichokes. Funny thing is, just before I pulled these ones up, here's all the ones that I've been collecting so far from all the plants. This one here has red Jerusalem artichokes, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what the difference is. I'm very curious. There's just a lot of them, but they grow a little differently. They're hanging by the roots more than being all clustered up tight like this. Hanging kind of loose. Interesting. But I've definitely collected quite a few. And now what to do with them. They really came up pretty easy. All I needed to do was just pull the stem, and most of them came out right out of the ground, right with the stem. I just cleared out the hole a little bit and maybe found one or two, but mostly it was pretty empty. So they're really easy to harvest and they're very easy to grow. So that's something that thrives very well in this climate and soil. However, I have a lot of Jerusalem artichokes. Now I know that they're really great in place of water chestnuts because they're very crisp and they hold up their crispness when they've been cooked. And they're also good raw. They're very crunchy. They're kind of like, they're a good substitute for jicama. Like you can put some lime and chili on them and they're really good raw. When I was growing up, my mom used to grow them and she ate them raw all the time. And that's how she served them, was on a relish plate with lots of other vegetables and dip. But there's still a lot. So when I was doing some research on Jerusalem artichokes, I had an idea about fermenting. And lo and behold, they're great fermented, according to the internet. So I have really been excited about the fermenting that I've been doing. I fermented some dill pickles, I fermented jalapenos, and both of them turned out wonderful. They were amazing. I even did only 1 quart of sweet cucumber pickles. I loved it, but I'm the only one in the homestead really that likes sweet pickles that much. So I'd only done 1 quart. So what I've decided to do is ferment sweet Jerusalem artichokes. And I'm very excited. I think this will be a wonderful addition to our food storage. Now, I didn't find very much in the way of specific recipe for Jerusalem artichoke fermentation, but I did do some research and I did find one fermented sweet pickle recipe that I used for the 1 quart that I did, but it was kind of like more of a bread and butter pickle. So I wanted to do a little more of that sweet, tangy, maybe even a little spicy sweet pickle with these Jerusalem artichokes. So I was trying to come up with a recipe, and I hope it works out pretty good. I've already started some jars. In fact, I have 5 quarts already fermenting from a few days ago. So we'll see how they turn out, but I know that the fermenting pickles has been just amazing. The 1 quart of sweet pickles that I did was so delicious. I ate it all. I just had 1 pickle a day, but I loved it so much, and it was gone pretty quick. So I'm very excited about making all of these quarts of Jerusalem artichokes. Like I said, I've got 5 quarts already, and I still have this many left. So I'm thinking I have several more quarts to go. Now, the great thing about fermenting is that you don't need to sterilize jars, just cleaned, and you're not going to be cooking anything. So it really is a simple operation. I'm really liking it a lot. So let me go ahead and start with the brine. So I'm starting with 2 cups of white sugar. Then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of kosher or pickling salt. This is for 2 quarts of water. I'm going to do a teaspoon of chili flakes and 2 teaspoons of turmeric. Now I'm just going to add the water and stir it until all the sugar and salt is dissolved. As you can see, it's just a very yellow liquid with the turmeric, but the salt and the sugar dissolve pretty quickly. Now I'm going to take a clean quart jar and I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of pickling spice. Now, it's pretty easy to find pickling spice. I buy it in bulk at Winco. It's got quite a combination of seeds. It makes a wonderful flavor for pickles. 1 clove and 1 allspice for each jar. And then I'm just going to fill up the jar. Now, like I said, these red Jerusalem artichokes, or sunchokes as some people call them, are rather small, so I can just drop them in and just fill the jar. Now, if they're any bigger than, say, a walnut, I just cut them a little bit smaller. These ones I'm just cutting in half. Now, when they're really large like this, I've been cutting them in quarters. Want to leave a good 1/2 inch or inch so that there's room for your weight and to make sure that the vegetable in here is completely covered in the brine. And I always give it a good stir, give the brine a good stir before I pour it in each time to make sure that everything is well combined. There we have some beautiful fermented sunchokes. Now, I don't have those real pretty glass weights that they put on fermented jars. There's one jar that I have already done. And I just used a small little container that fit in the wide mouth jar, and I don't want it to dilute the brine, so I put a little bit of salt in the water to weight it down. And the container works as a good weight. Then I cut a piece of material, I saw this also online on a fermenting demonstration where they just used a piece of fabric and then the ring on the jar. And that just helps it to breathe and so it lets the gases and any excess bubbles to escape. I've run out of little containers that will fit in my jars, and I also ran out of wide mouth jars. So all I have left is the small mouth jars, and I don't have any containers that will fit inside there. So I also saw online they talked about using a Ziploc bag with water in it as a weight. And again, I put a teaspoon of kosher or pickling salt in it, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of water, about 1/4 of a cup, to act as a weight. And I get all of the air out, and then I just set that on top, and it weights it down beautifully. And it also covers it, so I don't need to put any fabric or anything on it because it also acts as a cover for it. That used up all of the red sunchokes. So now I'm going to use the white ones, and some of these are pretty big. They're pretty good size. So I've been cutting them in quarters or sometimes eighths to get them to be about this size. This is the walnut size, and these I just used whole. So first, I'm going to put in the pickling spice, 1 teaspoon, then 1 clove, and 1 allspice, and then I just drop them in. Okay, there we go. Now we just fill it with the brine. Now this one, I push them in pretty tight, so they're staying under the water very well. But as they ferment, they might loosen up, and then I can add the plastic bag on top as a weight. But for now, I'll just put a cloth on top, and I can just put a rubber band, or I can put the ring. It doesn't have to be sealed, it just needs to be covered. And we just keep going until all of the jars are filled and all of the sunchokes are in jars. Okay, look at here. We ended up with 18 quarts. This time, I think the sweet pickles are going to last me a little while. I think it'll take me a little while to get through this many sweet pickles. But oh my gosh, this is wonderful. I'm so excited. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so grateful for you. Please like and subscribe and share if you can. It would be so helpful for me. Until we meet again.